It is very quiet this time of year. No buzzing, there's no sounds at all. It's just quiet out in the fields. It's hard to be out in that environment when you've never seen it like that before. When we're in full production, this whole west side of the valley is just buzzing. People with equipment, with airplanes in the sky, trucks rolling down the road, moving seed to put in the fields. You're seeing the fields flooded. You're just seeing all the animals come in. You've got ibis just flocking into the fields. You always have the shorebirds chasing the edge of that water where it's hitting the dry dirt. Little baby ducklings and baby goslings out there. Our farms are out working and doing what we know how to do, and we're in our environment, bustling with activity. All the parts stores are busy. You know, the restaurants, the grocery stores are early in the morning, they're jam-packed with people. Everything is happy and everything's working. And now this whole thing is just a disaster, really. You go out in the rice fields in the rice country on this side of the valley, and it's just, they're all empty. It's just bare dirt. There's just nothing growing. No employees out in the fields. Nobody's out working them. It's probably 80% of my farm is just parked. It's just, there's just nothing happening. Everybody that depends on agriculture in our rural economies are not busy. If I'm not paying my guys, the overtime, the double time, because we don't have work to do, their tractors aren't moving, our tires don't need to be replaced, so the tire shop guys, they aren't as busy. It just trickles right down through the whole economy. If the drought continues next year, it'd be felt around the world. We need water to grow rice. We need water for fish, we need water for towns, we need water for all the creatures that survive on the environment that the rice farmers provide. The biggest winter migration waterfowl region in North America is the Sacramento Valley. And where there once was a huge ecosystem, it's just dried up. What solves it is rain above Lake Shasta. We can have all the rain in the world. If it falls below Redding, it's not going to help us. To not have the groundwater replenished by these dry streams that we have on the whole west side of the valley. When they run, they were charging our aquifers, and they haven't run in 2 or 3 years. And so it's getting really desperate as well. It's never happened before. This is completely unprecedented. It's all new to me, 100%. And how we manage it and how we try and survive and get through it, we just do what we're doing, and which is not much.
So what would you rather be doing right now?
I'd rather be growing rice.
It's a tough year, and everybody's just trying to survive here on the west side of the valley. Very little rice planted, and that's our core business, is drying and storage of rice. We're just trying to do whatever we can to survive, to provide as much as we can for the employees we've had. Most of them have been with us quite a few years. They're like family. It's important to the community too. It's just all intertwined.
This is a very rural, agriculturally inclined community, and it trickles down from ag. And whether that is the farms themselves or the warehouses like this or the mills, really everything depends on that. And so when that goes dry, everything else dries up along with it.
Out of 7 drying facilities, we'll probably have at least shut down 3, maybe 4. We won't hire as many seasonal people.
Volusia County has one of the highest unemployment rates in the country, and that's because a lot of jobs are seasonal, and now even the seasonal jobs are not available because there's nothing being produced. Every link in this chain is equally important, from the farmer to the warehouse to the mill to the truck drivers to the parts stores and the aviation. You can't do it without all of these different parts of this industry.
In the past, we used to do normally somewhere between 3.5 million and 4.5 million hundredweights of rice. This year, if we do 400,000 sacks of rice, we'll probably be lucky.
My first harvest, I remember you were constantly busy. It was just a constant flow. And then looking at this year, it's a glaring difference. You can't ignore it, and you can't move on from that. It definitely opened your eyes to the toll that it takes on a business, on a community, on the people in the community. It's a little scary.
Yeah. It's looked at kind of like a legacy now. We'd like to keep it going. My daughters are interested. I have 4 daughters. 3 of them are here at the warehouse with me, and the one is at the farm. We never knew my dad, but he was very much geared towards leaving something for his kids. So a lot what he did was for us.
It is really special to look back and think that, like, my grandparents started something that they wanted to pass on to their children, because it's something that's vital to our community, it's something that's vital to our state, it's something that's vital to our country, and my family has been a part of that now for 3 generations.
We'd just like to continue that on and hopefully provide a living for my daughters.
In a normal water year, there's generally about 350,000 acres of fall flooded rice fields. This year, we're expecting only about 150,000, which is right around 43% of normal, which is going to have a huge impact on forage resources for waterfowl in the Sacramento Valley. In general, wildlife are fairly resilient, and short-term impacts they can overcome, but it's the long-term impacts we have to be worried about with maintaining bird populations. All flooded rice fields provide about 60% of the forage resources available to wintering waterfowl. But if you look at the Sacramento Valley, specifically where most of the rice is harvested and grown, you're looking at 75% of the food resources are provided by fall flooded rice fields.
For folks who haven't been through the Sacramento Valley in previous years, this field behind us is what you should be seeing across the landscape. You know, this should be shallowly flooded areas where we get shorebirds able to feed off of rice grain or invertebrates in that area, because they really need it. You know, we have millions of birds that are coming through this area. The Pacific Flyway it's like a highway in the sky for birds. And so we have millions of waterfowl and hundreds of thousands of shorebirds that come right down the Central Valley in California and migrate from northern regions and either winter in the Central Valley or head even further south. So this is a travel path for birds, and it's so important that here in the Central Valley, we are able to provide the habitat that these birds need.
The Central Valley of California has lost over 90% of its natural wetlands, and what's left are managed wetlands, which do provide great resources to many different species of water birds in the Central Valley. But one of the reasons why we can sustain these huge numbers of water birds is because we have flooded agriculture. And in the Sacramento Valley, that's rice. And rice does a really great job at providing surrogate wetland habitat.
What you see here beside me is what we call a fall flooded rice field. This field was planted in rice and harvested in September, and they put water on it after the harvest to break down the rice straw through decomposition. This not only benefits the farmer, but it also benefits millions of migratory waterfowl, shorebirds, and other water birds.
In a rice field like this, they're able to find food and they can rest, and it's a safe place to hang out and either spend the winter, which some birds do, like Dunlin. And then for some birds, they actually just use it to rest and refuel, and then they're actually headed further south, and this is just a stop on a much longer migration. A lot of areas that birds traditionally used in the Intermountain West, these areas are drying. There's a lot less habitat in those areas, so there are more birds here earlier than there might normally be.
One of the consequences in drought when we have less habitat is just finding enough places for the birds to land, rest and feed. But also that creates a risk of birds crowding together when there's less area, and there's more risk of disease transmission, which is something we worry about in times like this, where the migratory season has just started and we're waiting for the additional millions of waterfowl, hundreds of thousands of shorebirds to come to this area.
For the areas that do have access to surface water or groundwater, this is the kind of year when whatever they can pump is super important to the birds, because there are some areas that have no access to water. And so if there are areas that do, it makes them even more important, and that we get that out on the ground for all of these water birds.
It's really challenging because we have, a lot of drivers here with less water supply. So we really need to be finding those opportunities to stretch every drop of water, create additional benefits, provide these benefits to birds with agricultural production as well. Rice is the type of farming practice that can still provide wetland benefits to migratory birds. So in the winter, the non-growing period, rice fields provide that resource for birds that are coming down on the Pacific Flyway.